When an Oscar-nominated legend who has delivered billion-dollar hits to Hollywood for decades breaks down on national radio, admitting that despite all her blockbusters, her pay is still being slashed, this stops being a simple wage dispute. This is a direct reality check on the broken systems of Hollywood. When Taraji P. Henson exposed the working conditions on the set of The Color Purple, the documented facts and the reality of the studio immediately came to light. Despite a massive $100 million budget, lead actors were forced to drive themselves to set in rental cars, denied security details, and left without basic private dressing rooms. She stated directly that when she fought for basic industry standards, the response was, "If we do it for you, we have to do it for everyone." But the core issue erupted when this exact situation exposed the underlying gatekeeping structure of the industry. Industry facts and historical records prove that whenever a top-tier actor demands standard compensation and proper working conditions, studio executives weaponize the difficult-to-work-with label to sideline them. When Katt Williams delivered his breakdown on Club Shay Shay, he highlighted point-blank how Hollywood's upper-tier system uses these exact tactics to humble powerhouse talent and slash production costs.
P. Henson got extremely emotional the other day. She was giving an interview.
Yes.
And saying that they're vastly underpaid and say the math is not mathing. They get X amount of dollars by the time Uncle Sam get his cut, by the time the agency get their cut, and what you see they were supposed to get is a fraction of that. Where do you come down on that, Katt?
It was the saddest thing ever, because imagine being in your genre, in your sub-niche, whatever it is. Imagine being in your lane. Imagine being one of the very top of your lane, that to the point where if they don't take you for the role, there's not 3 black actresses that they can say are bigger than you that we're going to give this to. Imagine you being at that point and have to humble yourself and say,
this fight isn't a private dispute. It is the documented reality that studio management has been keeping hidden from the public for years. The reality behind Taraji P. Henson's breakdown isn't an isolated incident of bad scheduling. It exposed a cold, calculated pattern embedded inside studio operations. When a $100 million production budget fails to cover basic security or proper green rooms for award-winning leads, the money doesn't just vanish. It gets reallocated away from the very talent driving the project. Taraji revealed that during rehearsals for The Color Purple, cast members were expected to commute across Atlanta in basic rental cars without drivers, creating severe safety risks for high-profile figures. When she pressed production executives on why standard security details were missing, the pushback was instant. Studio leadership framed basic workplace safety as an unnecessary luxury rather than a standard industry obligation. That confrontation forced Taraji to fight individually for accommodations that should have been arranged long before cameras started rolling. Co-star Danielle Brooks later confirmed that Taraji was the only person on set with the seniority and courage to speak directly to executive leadership to fix those conditions. While the studio eventually provided drivers after relentless pressure, the message sent to the cast was clear: advocate for your basic value, and you will be treated as an operational burden. This entire dynamic took an even sharper turn when Katt Williams sat down on Club Shay Shay and broke down the exact mechanics of how these studio systems operate behind closed doors. Williams didn't filter his analysis. He pointed out that when an actor reaches the absolute pinnacle of their craft, where there are virtually no other peers competing for those specific top-tier roles, forcing them to publicly beg for fair pay is a feature of the system, not a bug. It is a deliberate strategy designed to reset an actor's market value and keep them dependent on executive approval. Williams explicitly called out the role of high-profile industry gatekeepers who align with major studios to protect corporate profit margins. When powerful figures control access to top-tier platforms, be it television networks, major film distribution, or influential talk shows, they dictate who gets amplified and who gets suppressed. Historically, when artists refuse to accept below-market rates or object to subpar working conditions, studio networks orchestrate a quiet withdrawal of support. The actor is labeled uncooperative, press access gets restricted, and future project offers mysteriously dry up. This gatekeeping pattern isn't new. It has documented precedents across Hollywood's history. Dave Chappelle faced intense public and corporate pushback when he walked away from a $50 million deal to preserve his creative independence. During his subsequent high-profile media appearances, Interviewers framed his decision not as a principled stand for integrity, but as erratic behavior, repeatedly questioning his mental stability for turning down corporate capital. Similarly, rapper and actor Ludacris experienced studio censorship firsthand during an appearance on major daytime television to promote the Oscar-winning film Crash. When challenged on his music lyrics, his direct, composed pushback was quietly edited out of the broadcast edit before airing, leaving viewers with a completely skewed perception of the interaction. When top-tier talent pushes back against corporate narrative control, the system edits the reality to protect the institution. In Taraji's case, the consequences of speaking out manifested almost immediately during the film's promotional tour. Studio insiders leaked reports framing her public comments on pay disparity as a self-serving distraction that derailed the movie's marketing campaign. Instead of addressing the documented wage gaps and missing set accommodations, corporate narrative channels shifted the focus onto her behavior, accusing her of ruining the film's press momentum. This is the exact point where the power dynamic becomes undeniable. A veteran actor brings decades of box office credibility to a project, yet the moment they demand equitable treatment, the studio apparatus reframes them as a liability. The structural reality is simple. Studio budgets are structured to maximize executive margins while squeezing the talent on the ground. When Katt Williams exposed this reality on a platform viewed by tens of millions, it stripped away the polished PR facade of Hollywood's diversity initiatives, exposing the raw financial control that continues to dictate who thrives and who gets silenced. The tension surrounding The Color Purple was no longer confined to backstage production meetings. It bled directly onto the international red carpet. During a high-profile press event at the Empire State Building, media outlets and onlookers captured undeniable visual proof of the rift. Photos and press videos documented a striking distance between Taraji P. Henson and executive producer Oprah Winfrey. Taraji's visibly guarded demeanor and stiff body language stood in stark contrast to standard promotional tours, making it glaringly obvious that the behind-the-scenes conflict had reached a breaking point. As public scrutiny intensified over the visible coldness between the two, corporate damage control was launched to contain the narrative. At the Golden Globes red carpet, Oprah Winfrey personally stepped in front of reporters to address the growing controversy directly. She firmly denied any personal rift, stating that as an executive producer, she was the film's greatest champion and claimed that whenever an issue arose on set, she stepped in immediately to resolve it. She explicitly shifted financial accountability away from herself, reminding the press that Warner Brothers controlled the official production budget and actor payroll, not her personal account. However, official production records and documented timelines painted a far more complex picture. While studio brass framed these budget cuts as standard corporate cost containment measures, the reality was that a $100 million budget routinely accounts for lead actor security, private transportation, and suitable holding facilities. The sudden cost-cutting, specifically targeting the lead cast members, exposed a glaring disparity between the movie's high-profile marketing messaging and its actual operational execution. Instead of quenching the fire, the studio's defensive posture triggered a deeper re-examination of historical patterns within the industry. Observers pointed to past instances where outspoken performers who raised identical concerns faced quiet career retaliation. Actress and comedian Monique had previously documented a similar trajectory following her Oscar-winning performance in Precious. When Monique refused to participate in uncompensated international promotional tours, studio networks branded her as difficult to work with, a label that effectively froze her out of mainstream studio offers for years. The parallels between Monique's documented blacklisting and Taraji's current struggle underscored a repeating structural cycle. Actors are expected to perform extensive promotional labor beyond their contracts, and those who demand fair compensation or object to unfair working conditions face immediate reputational damage. When an actor challenges the pay structure, corporate messaging shifts seamlessly from celebrating their talent to framing them as unprofessional liabilities. Behind closed doors, the pressure on Taraji to fall in line escalated rapidly. Shortly after the red carpet awkwardness dominated news cycles, Taraji posted a detailed tribute on social media praising Oprah's support during the production. Industry analysts recognized the strategic nature of the move, a classic public relations maneuver designed to soften media coverage. protect the film's opening weekend box office, and de-escalate rising corporate friction. Yet, even with the public attempt to smooth over the conflict, the core issue remained completely unaddressed. Taraji did not retract her original statements regarding the severe wage cuts, the lack of basic set amenities, or the reality of having to fight for basic professional respect. The forced PR reconciliation only highlighted the immense leverage studio networks hold over veteran talent, forcing them to navigate a precarious balance between standing up for their worth and protecting their long-term career viability. The system had effectively maneuvered to neutralize the story, framing the dispute as a simple misunderstanding between colleagues rather than a systemic issue of corporate underpayment and workplace neglect. The fallout was no longer just about a movie press tour. It ignited an explosive cultural reckoning that shattered Hollywood's carefully crafted public image. The shift occurred when Monique appeared on Club Shay Shay, dropping a documented timeline detail that completely reframed Taraji P. Henson's tears. Monique revealed a private conversation between her and Taraji from a decade earlier. Back then, when Monique was actively fighting industry blacklisting, Taraji had advised her to endure the system and wait for her turn. Monique's response was prophetic. "Most of us die before our turn comes." 10 years later, that exact reality came full circle. Taraji, at the absolute peak of her career, was facing the exact same structural wall Monique had warned her about. Despite starring in multi-hundred-million-dollar box office hits like Hidden Figures and leading the cultural phenomenon Empire, Taraji publicly confirmed she was still being offered compensation fractions lower than her non-black co-stars. Monique documented how studio executives systematically label outspoken black talent as difficult to justify freezing them out of major studio budgets, a pattern that repeated itself during the Color Purple press cycle. Media trade outlets confirmed that studio executives privately blamed Taraji's public statements on wage gaps for derailing the promotional campaign and shifting focus away from the film itself. Inside executive suites, the reaction was immediate damage control paired with subtle isolation. Production insiders revealed that studio executives were furious that a $100 million flagship release was being overshadowed by discussions of workplace neglect and underpayment. Rather than addressing the missing drivers, lack of security, or wage disparities, the executive response was to reframe Taraji as an ungrateful, aging actress who was using a team project to air personal grievances. The corporate machinery swung into motion to protect the studio brand at all costs, demonstrating how quickly an icon can be repositioned as an operational liability the moment she steps out of line. Outside the corporate bubble, public perception flipped entirely. For years, audiences had accepted Hollywood's superficial diversity campaigns at face value. But seeing an Oscar-nominated powerhouse break down in tears exposed the stark reality. Representation without economic equity is just exploitation. The public narrative shifted from viewing this as a simple Hollywood feud to recognizing it as documented systemic underpayment. Viewers began auditing studio budgets, calling out the hypocrisy of $100 million productions skimping on basic safety and fair wages for the very actors carrying the film. The peak of this crisis arrived when the industry was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Taraji's breakdown wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a whistleblower moment. By risking her career to document these conditions on live radio, she exposed a blueprint of corporate exploitation that had operated in the shadows for decades. The gatekeepers who relied on keeping talent quiet and isolated were suddenly exposed under a global spotlight. Taraji had effectively pulled the emergency brake on the entire system, proving that no amount of polished PR can hide documented inequality when stars decide to speak the truth. Taraji P. Henson's stand didn't just expose missing rental car drivers or slashed paychecks, it completely tore down the curtain on Hollywood's corporate gatekeeping. By choosing to speak the documented truth on live radio, she forced the industry to confront a reality it spent decades hiding, that even the most legendary talent can be weaponized against, labeled difficult, and pushed to their limits the second they demand what they are owed. Oprah Winfrey maintains that she championed the film and stepped in whenever issues arose, while studio executives continue to protect their bottom lines. But with Katt Williams exposing the blueprint and history showing us exactly how outspoken icons get treated, one massive question remains. Has Taraji successfully shattered the status quo for future generations, or will the studio system quietly freeze her out for daring to speak up? Now I want to hear from you down in the comments. If an Oscar-nominated powerhouse like Taraji P. Henson has to cry on national radio just to get basic respect, is Hollywood actually changing, or are the corporate gatekeepers still fully in control? Drop your thoughts below. Let's get this debate going. If you want the real, unvarnished facts behind these major industry stories, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because as this situation continues to unfold behind closed doors, one thing is certain: this fight is far from over.